Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Welcome back. And we've got Richard Walsh and I are going to talk about revenue versus profit and how you can create both in your company and what should you be creating, when you should be creating it, and how you can create it. For those of you who are looking to increase your revenues, increase your profits, reach out to me at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. Let me know what you're doing, especially if you have sales teams and you're looking to increase that within that process as well. Richard is an expert in this field as well, and you'll see as we're communicating back and forth, there's a lot of great information here. I recommend you get a pen, pencil, paper, digital notepad, whatever, write it down. If you love this episode, please give it a 5-star review because it's always very helpful. And frankly, it's an ego stroke for me when I see it. So I appreciate all of you who do that. All right, let's go talk to Richard right now, and let's talk about revenues and profit growth. Hey, Richard, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Doug, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So for those of you don't know Richard, I was actually on his podcast, and I was so impressed with our interview and his business acumen that I asked him to come here, and we're going to talk a lot about the differences between revenue growth and profit growth and why you should pay attention to both. But, profit's always great, right? Because that's what we take home usually in many cases. So, Richard, why don't you give people the background of your business life? I know you built, I think it was a $12 million company, if I remember correctly, or in the construction business.
A few, yep. So, started back in late 80s. I got out of the Marine Corps and was just swinging a pick for $5 an hour digging trench, with a serious future, right? So, got out of that, discovered how to be an entrepreneur by a guy giving me a side gig. Wanted me to shovel 35 tons of gravel from the street to his backyard and spread it. And I did that. Took about 10 hours, Tucson heat. And he put $1,000 in my hand. And I went, dang, I did this yesterday for 40. I know my future. So I launched a landscape company. I'll shovel rock every day, all day for $1,000 a day. That morphed into a custom water feature business that I then scaled about 20 years. Did really well with that until I didn't, as the saying goes. 08, 09 came, everything collapsed. I lost business, lost my home, all kinds of dumb reasons for that we could talk about later. But kind of had to restart. So I had 6 little kids, 4 years and younger. My wife, again, had to move, relocated, started again. So I I opened a gym and started doing boot camp style training with that for a few years. Then opened a contracting business, roofing, siding, windows, did that I scaled as well. Really going well there. And then a lot of people started asking me, Doug, like, well, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
How'd you go from all that to nothing back to this? And I said, well, what are you doing? And I talked to them and I helped them with their business a little bit, talked to another guy. The patterns became the same. Everyone's doing the same wrong things, right? Typical in the business, especially in the contracting world, service and trades business. So I said, hey, I think I'll write a book. So I wrote a best-selling book called Escape the Owner Prison, The Contractor's New Way to Scale, Regain Control, and Fast-Track Growth While Loving Life, where I would show these guys how to do it, right? How to turn the keys over. So, the business didn't actually need them to open the door every day. And that kind of launched Sharpen the Spirit Coaching back in the day. And it's been, 8 years now with that, 7, 8 years. And that's kind of brings us up to speed where we're at now. Now I help businesses do that. I do a lot in the manufacturing sector with frontline leadership and recovering profit leakage and things like that in businesses. So, yeah, it's to give you a great saying that I learned from a mentor years ago: revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So to dial us in, just remember that, okay? Because too many times people are chasing that revenue number, which all looks pretty. It's cool till you come inside the business and you find out,
Yeah.
hey, you're doing 10 million a year, but you're not even taking home 100 grand.
Yeah.
Something's broken. So,
yeah, that's the, and folks, that's the message I want you to get out of this podcast today. Like, don't shut it off because there's more good things to come. But the reality is, I have, and you have, Richard, as well, looked at I mean, collectively, I'm going to say thousands of businesses over our lives together, right?
Right.
And it never ceases to amaze me. They're out there kind of pumping up. I got this in revenue. I've got this. I've got that. And then when you kind of pull the hood open and you look underneath the hood, it's like, what? like, like I had a company that was doing concierge services on airlines, for example. They would private jets for the most part, right?
Right.
Sales service, and they had this concierge service where they would actually have pilots driving people all over the place. Mm-hmm. And they were $1 billion company. And I asked them that question. I said, well, what's the bottom line? And they said, well, we're $1 billion company. And I said, yeah, what's the numbers look like? We're $1 billion company. It's like, how much are you losing? Right. It's like 70 million a year. We're losing 70 million a year, but it sounds impressive to be $1 billion company. And, we know examples of lots of companies that have been up there and now no longer gone. When your mentor said that to you, when somebody said this to you, I like it. Revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. Where were you in your life at that point? Like, because you've had and I can relate to similar stories in my life where we've had, the old Frank Sinatra song, riding high in April and shot down in May type thing, right? Yeah. What two things. Where was your head at? Like, where were you in a business cycle at that? And did you kind of embrace that right away? Or was that, it took some time to sink in over some time?
So that sunk in very quickly because I had already lost my business. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in the process of opening the gym and I'm running this thing. I'm trying to build that. And this mentor was like, he had said that to me. And I'm like, well, that totally makes sense because my previous business, it was revenue, right? I'm doing well, I'm doing a lot of good things, making a lot of money. It's not that my profit was bad in the first business. This is kind of a clarifying point. It's that the only thing I knew about business was you make money. Okay. I built beautiful things. I was the best in the world at what I did. I'm an internationally recognized steel sculptor. I'm doing stuff, world-class stuff and making a lot of money. But I didn't pay attention to the actual difficult stuff of business, and that's everything else, right? So that's when things really go off the rails, right? So I'm looking at revenue numbers, even my profit numbers, like, hey, I'm making great money, but I wasn't paying attention to the business. Now, as I looked at other businesses, it was even more on the revenue side, right? So, and I guess when I talk to people, they'd brag about the revenue, right? So when they would do that, I knew where they're at in their business. I knew who they were in their business, Yeah. Because if you're killing a profit, you'd be talking about your profit.
Right.
You'd actually have that. There's a difference, right? You're bragging, hey, look at the right hand when the left hand's over here. Well, you're missing the left hand. Okay. you got nothing. So for me, I always kind of really dialed into that because that resonated with me so much. I'm like, yeah, all that revenue, it doesn't matter. You can't use it. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to, it's just a scoreboard. That's all, literally a scoreboard. And a scoreboard can't play the game. Okay. It doesn't decide who wins or loses. It doesn't do anything except keep track. Right. So we have to really, so I started like, well, how much do I want to actually keep? So I did kind of a reverse engineer and I would build it on that. So what I thought was like, how much do I want to keep? Do I want to be a 7-figure earner? Oh, that'd be great. Okay, that sounds good. But then what does it take? Okay, now what would I need in revenue to keep a 7-figure income?
Right.
Right. So you can kind of reverse engineer that. But then you go, well, how do you keep your money? Okay. So that's 10 shows in a row you have to do, right? But does that kind of make sense? You got to really start looking at like you're guarding the profit. You're prioritizing profit over revenue. And it's a hard shift for people to do, Doug, because they're driving sales. And we got to sell. But I always tell people, Doug, too, you know what? making money in business is the easiest part of business. Okay. People may disagree, but I'm telling you, making money, especially if you're excited, you got a good thing, you get out, you can sell and you can make money. I mean, money's coming in, but it's all the other stuff is keeping it, protecting that money, allocating that money, doing everything else with that that's going to end up in, what's going to end up in the profit column.
Yeah, I think so. There's a few things I'd like to unpack there. Number one, in that business you were talking about, steel sculpting and all this. Right. I mean, so many people are the artist in their business. And, that's the fun part. It's creative. It's like you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, this is awesome. It's like I remember years ago, I read a book, and some of you will be like, why'd you read this book? Because I read lots of books on autobiographies, and I read it back, Barry Manilow. And, for those of you who don't know him, Barry.
Q Copacabana. Come on.
Copacabana. Yeah. And he was really, really big in, I think, the 70s and 80s, if you will. Right. And, but in the book, it said he woke up one day and he was almost near bankrupt. And, but he had been out there touring and filling up stadiums and things like that. And his business manager was, quote, in the book, it said, not doing the right thing and stealing from him, basically.
Right.
And this is an example, just one, folks, of, I'm not saying that you're in that position, but if you don't pay attention to the business of the business, what ends up happening is you can drive lots of money. I had another gentleman, he was in the medical field, actually, and he was doing 40 million a year. And I looked through his numbers, Richard, and I'm like, your numbers are off. Like, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a forensic accountant, but I can just see it in the numbers. And he's like, no, that's not the case. And I said, go have your books audited and see what's up. Well, it turned out his chief financial officer was embezzling money and embezzled $2 million over 2 years. And he never saw it. Another example of a company, they were installing, I didn't even know this was a business at the time. They installed poles for utilities, right? And they were doing 14 million a year in that, and they scaled 14 million in that second year of business. And I looked at the numbers. I'm like, where's all your money? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, how's the daily life? Well, things are getting a little tight now. And I'm like, let's look at your books. And Richard, there was over $8 million not collected over 180 days.
So, I see that so much.
Right. And so he said, well, what do I do? I'm like, reach out to these people. They collected nearly 90% of that within the first 30 days, which was crazy. Yep. And people were literally saying to him, I was wondering when you were going to call me, man. I've been trying to pay you, like that type of thing. So the artist in all of us can get in the way and cloud the judgment. I heard Tony Robbins say this when I was working with Tony, that he learned to be a businessman because he was an artist, really, when it came down to it, right? So that's the first thing I want everybody to kind of put in check. Are you an artist? If so, you need a Richard in your life. It's that simple, and if you don't have them, you're apt to wake up one day and find that all your hard work and energy is going in the direction that you don't necessarily want it to go. And again, I'm a big proponent, everybody knows, on metrics and math and, all that stuff, right? But when it comes to sales teams, I have just seen it over and over, Richard, where they are like pumping it up. And then I look at the bottom line and I'm like, you're 27% in the, in the negative here.
Right.
And you're making it up on the back end of the business. But what if we fix the front end of this business and we got you, let's say we couldn't, because marketing cost was so high, but we couldn't get you from 27%, but we could get you from 27% to 7%. on the front end. That's a huge amount of profit on the back end, right? So, so the second thing I wanted to bring up, which you brought up was awesome, is you know, what are some of the ways that we should be not just looking at this, but some of the tactical plays that, like some of the simple things that we could talk about here. And if they want more deep, complex ones, obviously make a call to yourself and me, and we can help them out.
You know, Doug, I think here's the thing I talk often about and early when I work with people. Simple, it's just two words: exit strategy. Now, and I always tell people there's two times to work on your exit strategy. Okay. The first is before you start your business. That's the best time.
Yep.
Okay. The second one would be right now.
Yep.
Okay. Because here's in a really high view. Exit strategy is as simple as this: how long and how much? How long you want to do this business? How much do you want for it when you exit? What do you want? Okay. And from there, we go back to reverse engineering. If I know that, I'm going to reverse engineer. Well, what's it going to take to get there? Every step, right? Work yourself backwards. You'll know when to hire the first person. You know your numbers. You start looking at that. Here's the best part about it, though. I call it the ultimate business filter. Because as you start to gain success, just like these guys, you're scaling fast, great things are happening. All the opportunity ferry is going to come floating by. Everyone's going to want you to, share all that money you're making and do their little gig and help them, or you think this would be a great thing to do with my business. And all you have to say is, okay, interesting. Let me run that through my exit strategy. If it gets me closer to the end, I'm in. If not, it's a hard no. Keeps a lot of distraction out, keeps you focused on the main thing and growing on that. And then you have a general plan, right? You're not going to know every detail, but it gives you a general plan to focus on. Because the goal, when you get to the exit strategy, and this is a whole nother business conversation, but here's the ideal exit. And you've done 37 businesses or whatever, right? But you want to get there. Someone comes in, you want 10 million for your business. Great. Someone comes, you negotiate, maybe you get 10.5. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But they hand you a check, you shake their hand, you're out the door, they're in. No one knows the business sold, right? Because you've built a business someone would actually want to pay $10 million for. Right. So that's the point. But that exit strategy creates discipline. It creates structure. Okay. Now, quick point on this. So we talked about the 7-figure income, right? Hey, I'd like to make a 7-figure income. Okay, great. So you do that. Now the 10 years hits, the 10 million comes. Good. You shook hands. You're out. They're in. What'd you lose? $1 million a year in income. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Now we're reverse engineering. We're at day one right now. What do you have to do to not do that? I got to create passive income. I need $83,000 a month by the time I hit my exit, coming in passively, whether that's investments, real estate, whatever that might be. So I can not only get my 10 million, but I can maintain $1 million a year coming in. Right. So now as you start to look at that, it goes back to your point about watching the numbers, paying attention. You know what Parkinson's law is, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a plan for your money, meaning all of it, it will evaporate. I'm the master of evaporation. I was really good at it for 20 years. Okay. Because you don't have a plan. But once it has a place to go, a percent this and this and this and this, that's how you win. All of a sudden you're not seeing it, out of sight, out of mind, but it's working. It has places to go and work and do that. So a lot of those little things, see that's why exit strategy has such a prominent position in running a successful business, from what I've seen.
Yeah. And it's I love master of evaporation. How many of you are the master of evaporation? Like you might not do it like 100%, but think about this. If you're the master of evaporation and you're just burning off profits every single day, right? It may not show up like, oh man, I just lost the whole business, but it's like, it shows up in struggles and heaviness and daily lifestyle challenges. And what I'm really hearing loud to me, Richard, is we're going to, while we have a business, we've got to have a lifestyle that we got to look at. Mm-hmm. And where we want the lifestyle to be after the business. And the exit is, before you begin and now, because here's the thing for all of you who want to exit your company, it takes you longer than you figure. Mm-hmm. I joined a company called Paytech Communications very early on. I think I was probably around the 100th employee. And they said to me, your stock shares will go off at $130 a share. It was a tech business at that point in the boom days. And we'll sell no later than a year to 2 years max. 11 years later, the company did sell for $2 billion. My stock shares weren't 130, they were 13. And, but the reason I tell people this is because it's important to understand that it could happen tomorrow, but it likely will take you longer to sell that if you ever can sell the company, which, and you set it up right, it increases your likelihood. But the worst time is when you don't have enough time. The worst time, because if you have, let's say you need to sell in a year, you found out I got to get out of this, whatever, right? But you haven't set the business up like Richard's talking about. Yep. You aren't getting the multiple with high priority probability that you were thinking, because when somebody looks at your business, they look at your business differently than you look at your business. And so that is the important part to convey. And Richard, any company I've ever been involved in where we were going to try to sell it, we always started as early as we could. Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. There are businesses we didn't, because the owner was like, I'm not going to, I wasn't the owner of the company at the time. But they always do two things, especially major corporations. They try to boost the revenues, but they try to boost the profitability. So they're cutting all of the unnecessary stuff out of the the spreadsheet of numbers, if you will, mm-hmm. to boost the profitability, to get the higher multiple. Yeah. So what are some of the ways that people can start and say, okay, today, the 12th of November, what are some of the things that they could start to just take a look at, just to start to crack it open?
Yeah, I would say the first thing to look at is, how does your business run? So that first question you ask, if I left for a month, what would I come back to? A pile of ashes? Someone burn the place down? Would it be functioning great? Maybe we're taking new ground. What does that look like? What does it look like when my hands are off this 100%? Have you taken a 2-week vacation ever? Okay. Ask yourself that, because you were without calling in. I did this with a client. He's got a contracting business, great remodeling stuff, doing 12, 15 jobs at a time, losing his mind, right? Not making a ton of money, no time with the family. He's got 5 kids, a wife and everything else. In a 9-month period before we hit the 12-month mark, his wife gave me a message, and she's like, in 8 years in business, I never thought this could happen. We just spent 2 weeks at the beach with all 5 of the kids. He was never on the phone, totally present. This is a miracle, right? So, because we focus on like, who's going to run the business? How are you going to do this? We're going to do less, right? And his profits were up. He was up $1 million. Okay, in the same time. So that it's that kind of thing. Who's running the business? What are your systems and processes? You look at that, right? I mean, you see other companies that seem to just work. You don't see an odor floating around everyone, cracking a whip.
Yeah.
So we need to find out, how do we get a business to operate that way? And that's a process. It's not, hey, in 2 months I'll have this systemized business, unless you're a one-man operation. But then you can't, because you only got one man.
Right. Unless you have a ton of AI bots around you, and then you might be able to do. But the systems and processes streamline things and make things much more efficient. So when we're looking at profitability, think about it this way, folks. If you can improve the efficiency or the effectiveness of something you're doing, you're generally going to be time, money, energy, human labor, whatever it is, you're going to essentially increase the output, but the amount of work it takes to get that done is going to decrease. So in theory, you should get profit out of it. Is that a fair statement, Richard?
Yeah, I think I use 3 things. I told people: you want to automate, delegate, and eliminate.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the three things we're going to look at to kind of give it a big picture. Automate whatever you can. And we got everything from AI now to, virtual assistants, whatever that looks like in your business. Delegate, obviously, give the work away, give it to someone else. Set them up for success first. Don't just dump it on their desk and say, figure this out, because that person will be gone by Friday. Okay. You got to actually build it out so they can succeed in the lane, but do that as much as you can. Delegate. Absolutely. I like people, our focus for owners is to get them working on their 5%. That's 5% of the business only they can do. That's the goal. If they can work on that, everything else is delegated and automated, right? Now we get to eliminate. Now, obviously, we want to eliminate cost overruns and excess and waste and all that stuff. But the most important thing you're trying to eliminate is you as the owner. Eliminate you from the day to day. Just work on growth and strategy. Where are you going with this? Work on that exit plan. Work on that passive income generation, reallocate your active business income into the passive, do that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I look at it from those aspects. That's an easy way to begin, because you can start looking at things in segments and start moving forward, chipping things away. It's not overnight. And remember, the another great saying is, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and totally underestimate what they can accomplish in 5.
Right.
So the 1-year plan I get it. You need targets, but people are putting a whole lot in a year, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, they try to do it in 2 months versus even a year. So that's the big challenge. So if I was going to automate, delegate, or eliminate, where would I start first?
Automate.
Automate?
Yep, for sure.
Okay. And why would I want to start with automate first?
Because you can utilize the team you have. Okay. And you can build that, because there's this day-to-day stuff. And today you're in an exceptional position today with AI. It can handle the day-to-day rudimentary over again and again and again tasks that nobody truly wants to do.
Yeah.
No one gets happy because of that. Okay. So what you do, if you start there and you get that dialed in, now the people you have, they can do bigger things. Right? They can do more important things. You can begin to delegate to them, because that stuff is taken care of. If you try to delegate a lot of stuff that you might do, you don't have enough things automated yet. You're just heaping burden on them.
Yep.
You're going to burn them out. You're going to fry them. So let them all see how automation works, because they'll make it even better, and then begin to delegate bigger things. And believe me, the people want to be challenged. They want to do more. They want to contribute more, but they can do it with more bandwidth because you automated so much you had there. So I go in that direction.
Yeah. And here's the thing about automate that I believe, people don't know how to, right? So they get kind of wigged out on it. And it's like, all right, so what if we automated one thing a week? Just one simple thing a week. Think about it. 50 things over 50 weeks. You have 50 things now that are automated. But let's say, oh no, geez, I couldn't get 50 done. I only got 25. Right. If you had 25 automations going on in your business over a year, your business is going to feel very different than it is today. And, like, I love your analogy. Like, if you keep dumping things on them, because what came to my head was like, some wait staff, carrying like 6 plates, right? And trying to drop them on this table and drop them on that table. And then the owner comes by and goes, here's 6 more. And they're like, now they're holding one on between their arms, and they're just, eventually they're going to drop a plate. I mean, it's just that simple in most of the cases. And we automate in our life all the time. We don't even think about it. I mean, when you don't think about all the automation that's going on, even like in an automobile. And when we get in there, it's not like you're taking the gas and siphoning it in and blowing it into the engine. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these like things that happen. And, making toast. Wow. Before, you had to build a fire, throw the thing on the fire, toast your
Slice bread.
Oh gosh. Yeah. You have to.
That didn't happen until like the 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you think about that, but yeah, I think, like you talk about the car, there's automation in my car. I turn off.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
The one that keeps you between the lane.
Yeah. It drives me crazy.
I'm like, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. Okay. I'm a man of freedom. I want to swerve. I'm going to swerve. I want to drift. I'm going to drift. No one is keeping me inside the lane. I just won't permit it. So I get in and turn all that stuff off. Auto brake, auto, like none of that. I'm in control here. It's just,
So,
I'm
so,
afraid.
so if we automate, now we have delegate and eliminate. What's the second one?
Well, delegate is just that, right? Here's what's really important about delegation. This is where everybody screws up. Okay. A lot of people call it abdicating. They just tell someone to do it and then they want them to
Yeah.
figure it out. Like I mentioned, it never works. Okay. You might get the occasional unicorn superstar who can actually figure stuff out, but all that's doing is going to create a hostage situation where you're the hostage because they're the only one who can do this stuff.
Yes.
All right. You don't want to be in that position. Really bad place to be. So, what we want to do as part of your systems and processes, even part of your automation, is create a lane for whatever position it is. It could be sales, it could be accounting, it could be payables, whatever it is. And what does that look like? Okay. What you have to do is show them how to succeed on the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year. What does success look like in your position on the daily? Because don't you think everyone wants to succeed at what they do? If they were able to succeed every day, wouldn't they kind of be happy? And then
Yeah.
they come back the next day. So if you got to put in that work, build that out. Now that employee, that person on your team, they can help you build that because they probably know the job already better than you. But you need to make a structure because I have lots of sayings, Doug. Here's one of my favorites, another two-worder. Everybody leaves. Okay. So when you have a business, it might be 5 years, might be 5 minutes. I've had people leave on their first break, okay, and stuff
Yep.
like this. So we've seen it all, right? So everyone's going to leave. So you have to get a replacement. And if it's a hot mess with no systems, no process, how are they going to get up to speed? Who's going to train them? It can be you, who's not even really good at that, anyways. So we want to build out the lane so you can drop people in there and they can succeed. They can run. Now their efficiency's way up, right? Now that $8 million that wasn't collected gets collected on the regular.
Yep.
Because they have a lane, a system, they know what to do, know what's expected, right? So a lot of good things happen when you do that. But if you don't do that, you're going to be in trouble. So that's where I put the delegation part.
Yeah. And I think that's, building redundancy paths is always a good idea. Because I like everybody leaves because it's true.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm not in the same position I was in, when I was working for a company, I left. Right. And here's the thing, guys and gals, those of you who are listening, especially when it comes to your sales team, like I was the top rep in the company and I left to go start my own thing. They had to fill those shoes, but they didn't have any backfill on that process. So, the department I was working for, their numbers dropped, right? Because they were never duplicating that process to create redundancy in there. It was just like, so if you got a sales team and you got top members on that sales team, figure out how to duplicate that process because it's not just for the growth that you're going to have, it's for the security and when people leave, because they will. I mean, professional athletes, when their contract is up, they look for higher contracts and sometimes you just can't pay the money out. Right. Your sales team will do the same thing to you. When they realize, hey, I can go here and make this kind of money, but I'm here and I'm making this kind of money, but this money over here is like way more than I can make here. That's one reason they'll leave. I think this is important to bring up, Richard, because 70% of the people that I look at the stats, 70% of top performers say they leave because the job's misrepresented.
Right. There you go.
So if you're talking about delegation, you also have to tell the people the reality of the delegation. Right. It's like,
I think in sales, Doug, that happens a lot.
Oh yeah, okay? Yeah.
Because you're being sold a job.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can take that any way you want, but it's like, you're not just interviewing, you're being sold this gig to do this. And I've seen a lot of underhanded stuff in the day, and it's disappointing. But there's also the point of like your sales system, sales process, sales cycles, right? There's a lot of varying factors in there and why someone will stay, even if the money's better somewhere else. Even if there's problems, it's not always a money thing.
No.
Okay.
I agree.
Purpose, it's recognition, then it's quality pay. It's in that order. if they're in something, they love it, they got a purpose, they're going to stay. If they're getting the feedback they want, they're getting the recognition for killing it, meeting quotas, doing all that great stuff, awesome. And they're getting compensated for it. Everyone wants to be paid well, but the first two are what really matter to people. And if you're not able to, if you haven't built that into your culture, into your process, they are going to have one foot out the door all the time. They'll be swayed. I kind of have a policy when I'm dealing with business owners on hiring. I said, first rule number one, we don't hire the unemployed. Okay. And I go, if they're not working, it's for a reason. Unless they got let go last night. Okay. We for lack of a better term, I want to poach. I want someone else looking to come up and move over lateral or raise up and come for me. I want them working. I'll wait. Okay, let them do their notice, everything else. I want to see real progress. I want to see real numbers. What are you really doing today? Not what you did last year and you haven't worked in 12 months, because you decided to take a break. Like no, you're not coming on this team. I need producers, right?
Yeah. So you're looking for ideal right fit buyers for the position that you're looking to fill.
Exactly.
And there's criteria around that. I do want to say something about delegation though, because I think a lot of people they're afraid to delegate because they think that someone can't do it better than they are, which you and I both know is a fallacy. Right. But, I think they get so locked up in their limbic system. Like, I'm so sure I can do this and no one else can do this. So they shut down the creative side. Right. What do you say to business owners or to people who are, in positions where they need to delegate that process off, but they're like, oh, if I do that, then if this fails, then what? That type of thing.
Yes, it's super common. It's like the number one thing. Yeah. I think you could put it right up there. Like they won't put the literal hammer down. Yeah. They're still out doing finish trim. Yeah. Because no one's as good as them. So I always start with this. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. You're the best. No one's better than you. Okay, I'm going to give you that title. All right. But if John over here is 95% as good as you, or 97% as good as you, whatever that number might be, I'm going to assure you first, your customers will not know the difference. Okay? They're not, because you're that high of a level, right? They're not, they don't have any idea. Yes, it's a great end product, and if you're really concerned, train old John up that final 5%. Share the gift, my man. Share the gift, get them schooled up, let them do it, because as soon as you're able to do that, you're going to see a whole new world open up to you. You have a family? Oh, yeah. How many kids? Oh, 4 kids. Oh, great. How much time you spending with them? Well, it's hard, do this and this and this. And I said, well, listen, I always tell people, here's the problem with the lack of delegation or thinking you're the only one. I just use this simple thing. I said, look, you got a young boy or girl. They're playing soccer, right? They're, 6 years old. 7 years old. They're on the field. They're playing. You're not at the game because you're doing finish trim at some place that you shouldn't be doing, right? So your son's running down the field. He's got a breakaway. Boom, hits that first score in his life ever. Turns, looks at the bleacher. Who's not there? The only person he's looking for. Yeah. Okay. And you're nailing trim somewhere. Yeah. You're the only one who can do it. I go, that's gone forever. There's no replenishing that. You can replenish money. You can fix a problem on a job. You can do any of that kind of stuff, right? You can become a hero when something breaks and you go in to help with it, but you can't sacrifice everything else in your life because you think you're the absolute best.
I don't know the personal relationship, but I remember Brian Wilson, I think it was one of the Beach Boys. He was just always out touring, always. And his daughter was like, I never saw my father. Right. And there was sadness and this sense of, I wish I had a dad more. Right. I think it's a very common thing. And, family value time as you get older, as, not you, Richard, but me, as I'm older. Right. So as, you value that time more because you realize the time gets shorter. And then, so some people try to play it now through their grandchildren, like, oh, I'll take it to the grandkids. But to your point, you can absolutely do it while you're there. If you have these systems, processes, automation, delegation in place, and you're eliminating certain things. Well, number one, you're eliminating your need to be in the business.
Right.
So you should be working on the business, not in the business. When you first start your business, of course, you're going to be working
Yep.
in your business, but your job is not to stay in the business, or you build a business on your back. And essentially, you don't have a business. You now have a master that is your
Yep.
name on the company front board.
Yep.
And you are the slave to that master, because the business doesn't give a crap what kind of day you're having, what kind of, happiness or sadness or whatever. It only knows money in, money out equals something. And it's up to us to make it easier on us. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think a good point. I always tell people, I go, this is the cycle. Okay. You start a business, got to work hard. You're going to wear 9 hats. You're going to do all the stuff. You're going to sell, you're going to build, you're going to do whatever you got to do. And that's like first 2 years. Okay. But here's the issue. Next thing you know, it's 10 years. You've repeated the first 2 5 times.
Yeah.
That's the treadmill you're on. That's the hamster wheel, right? That's all you're going to do. And I think go back and think about Sylvester Stallone, okay? Icon. There's a guy who's achieved a few things. Okay.
Quite a few.
Right? You know what his only a number one regret is?
He didn't spend enough time with his family.
Kids. I mean, he's hurt by that.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy's like, what is he, almost 80 now? Right? And here's a guy that's his deepest regret.
Yeah.
The guy has everything, done everything. I mean, physical, everything, rights. I mean, and that's the one thing. So I always drive that home to people. I mean, I have 6 kids, right? And me losing my business, Doug, was the best thing ever, because the epiphany I had was, man, if I stay this business first and I keep doing this, my kids are going to grow up, have broken marriages and failed relationships. They're going to be lost because of what they saw me do, because more is caught than taught with kids. So I got up that day. This was in 2009 when everything was collapsing, and I just shut down. That day, I said, we're done. I'm not doing this anymore. Don't know what I'm going to do. This is making it. I've already done enough dumb things to make it even worse. So now we're going to start over, but then my new plan was, here's my litmus test. If my wife calls me, can I be there in 15 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's how I'm going to build my business. Whatever I'm doing, if I can't do that, I'm doing something wrong in my business. And because I want to be there. I mean, and she doesn't call me all the time, but we homeschooled our kids so I could be around. We raised them. So I was able to shift that priority due to my loss. So all that stuff, I mean, like I said, my identity was in that, and everything else was who I am. No one can do what I do and all this kind of stuff. But that turnaround, that epiphany I had was just awesome, and now that's how I do it. And that's what I teach others to do as well.
So I had a gentleman, Ray, if you're listening to this, thank you. Because he said to me one time, he said, Doug, the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make, they don't build their lifestyle first and then their business around it. They do it the opposite way. Yeah. And to your point with Sylvester Stallone, and people leave, I mean, his son passed away, right? So, he can't get that time back ever. He can't even make up for that time at that point, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs have said that. I believe Schwarzenegger said it when I was watching his autobiography. Dave Thomas from Wendy's said building Wendy's was the worst thing he's ever did. Yeah. So like that is like pretty good role models, folks, to pay attention to. And then if you're going to build a business, what's the purpose for it? If you're going to exit it, what do you want out of it? Are you going to get the revenue, high and say, haha, which has its point to get revenue to grow, but are you also going to get that profit to grow so that, you're taking care of that lifestyle that you're talking about that you want? I want to go to the third one, if you don't mind, Richard. You got delegate, automate, delegate, and eliminate. Yeah. What are we trying to eliminate? I mean, I know when I look at things, I'm trying to eliminate redundant paths, make it more efficient, make it more effective, maybe cost reduction, falls into that. But what's your definition of eliminate for people so they know?
Yeah, there's a number of things here. I'll give you one that maybe people don't think of. I want to eliminate the wrong customers.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Man.
Right? There you go.
We're in the same church at this point.
So, so here's the thing, and this is again the number one thing. you know what? There can't be more than a number one, but I think there's a couple number ones when I go into business in different categories, right? So in this category, most people are serving the wrong clients, or a
Yep.
good portion of their clients are wrong. They're the wrong price point. They're the wrong people. They don't have the gratitude for what they do, right? It's the most unfulfilling part of their whole business is dealing with these people, whether it's low bid or whatever that is. And when you can turn that around and discover what what we call the ICP, the ideal client profile is, and I do it very simply, Doug, tell me about your favorite customer. And they was great. They did this and they paid me like early and they got done and they bring stuff out to the guys when we're working and did this, and it was great. Super high end, made a ton of money. Okay. How would you like to only work with those kind of people? Oh, that'd be unbelievable. Well, why aren't you? I don't know. I said, why do you got these guys over here? Right. So one of my kitchen guys was like that. I'm like, does phenomenal work. I look at his book. He's averaging $43,000 a kitchen. I'm like, dude, that's really low. He goes, what do you mean? I go, look at the work you do. You don't understand who you need to serve. In a 9-month time period, average was now 90. We went from 41,000 to 93,000 average per kitchen. Right. Then he was getting kitchens at 170. $180,000 and instead of doing 12, 15 jobs at the time, he's doing 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So we created this because we understand his work was unbelievable. 41 grand doesn't deserve this work. Okay. This shouldn't be in their home. Okay. I mean, it's worth more than the home, what you've given them. Okay. So it's like we got to match you up here properly. So really understanding who you should be serving, you need to eliminate the wrong customers. It just drags a business down. It destroys your lifestyle. Because I hate to tell you, people who don't know this think the high-end customers are the pickiest and the hardest to work with. Yeah. It's exactly the opposite.
Yep.
Okay. And until you get you will never believe it. Just like the super successful people love to help the guys, the young entrepreneurs, but they love to help them because they know what it took. Yeah. Right. They'll give them the advice. They'll mentor them. They'll help them. They'll open doors for them so they can succeed. They're not afraid of them as competition. I was talking to one of my clients the other day. I said, he's talking about a guy acquiring these different companies and the work that he does. I said, that's good. He goes, well, I don't know. I go, well, trust me, those other guys are low bid guys who are undercutting you. That company's not going to operate that way. They're going to actually raise it up to your level. And that's who I want to compete with. Apples to apples. Because I can tweak my thing and we can shine, but you can't if they're just looking at numbers. That's a whole different animal. But I'd rather compete on the even playing field, where we both understand what it costs to actually do a successful business.
Yes,
low big guys don't know. They never succeed. They're trapped.
Well, and it shows up as companies like Sonova in the solar business who just filed bankruptcy, right? And so here's the thing that for most people, because I've been in that position before where I was serving the wrong client. That's why I'm so big about the ideal right fit buyer, because of exactly what you just said. But thinking back when I was there, it was like, oh, well, I have a fear around this because if I let this go, this unknown may not work out, or, am I really capable of getting that ideal right fit client, right? And what I've learned, Richard, is it's not just about education and tactics. You got to kind of address the mind side of that process as well. And there's no better way, folks, of doing that than actually landing one of those clients and finding out that, this is pretty cool. And it's a lot of fun when you make a year's worth of income in a day, right? Because you hit the right client. Man. And the thing is what I have found that they're the thing that holds them up besides the fear is they don't have systematic prospecting going on in their business. And therefore their scarcity brain is kicking in saying, well, if I move from this to this, but we're not talking about like an overnight shift like that, are we? We're talking about, hey, you're going to take and Now we'll work on 20%, and
Yep.
you can still do some 80%. And then we're going to get it to 50-50, and then we're going to get it to 70-30, and then we're going to
Yep.
get it to 90-10, and so on and so on. Correct?
Yeah, you gotta find out what the market's gonna bear. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Let's find out how can I go till I start saying no. And I'll give you my water feature business as an example, because again, I mean, people were paying me big money for what I do, right? My father, okay, I grew up in the golf course construction and maintenance business, right? So my dad can build stuff, operate stuff. He comes out one day, I'm doing this big project at someone's home. I think it's
Yep.
170,000 for this water feature, right? And he's looking, he goes, and he asked me how much. He goes, they pay you that much? And I go, Dad, yeah. And he goes, I go, well, Dad, let me explain this to you. See all this? You could probably do this. Okay. That's why you don't have to, they can't. They could stroke a check for every piece of equipment I got. My whole thing, they could do that right now. I said, but what are they going to do with it? They can't create this. And look what I'm creating when it's done. The serenity and the sound and just the magnificence of it all. You know, no one's got it. Looks like it was there before the house. You know, what a feature. I mean, it's that level. And he's like, I just can't believe that. I go, you don't have to. I do. I have to believe they'll pay that much. And here's the thing, Doug, no one ever told me they overpaid. Matter of fact, it was the exact opposite. Dude, you got it. You need to charge more. And my response was always, yeah, now that yours is done. That was, we both get a chuckle, right? But they're like, yeah, but really, man, this is like, and I'm 300% profit.
Yep.
I'm real money. Like you said, a year and a day,
Yeah.
a year and a week. I mean, stuff like that. It's like, holy cow. But you don't, until you understand who you're serving and then what you're out, and actually you have to deliver high value. I always, my whole kind of philosophy is always give more than you're being paid for. Always double that value. Always I'm never going to be, sorry, I'm keeping score. Okay. Like I am not going to be, I'm going to be the winner. I've always given them more than they paid for. That was just the goal,
In almost every time that will be accepted. And that's what I want people to understand. Like, there'll be the occasional, no matter who you made a mistake in doing the business with, that they don't, but that happens on any level, right? There's theft in Walmart, and there's theft in high-end exclusive, Lloyd's of London, right? I mean,
That's right.
It's just what happens. So, I had the same, I think you and I talked about this before, was, when I was I was a professional DJ, and I originally was doing $200 jobs, and my friends kept telling me, my gosh, you're so good, like raise your rates. And I'm like, I can't do that. But I had all this work coming into me. Like I had 100 jobs a year coming into me, and I'm making $20,000 a year. And this is a long time ago. So it was still reasonably good money, for a part-time thing. But one day I was playing the Marconi Club, and the people were complaining to the Marconi Club about they weren't getting, high fine china at their wedding. They had plastic little, champagne glasses. And I walked over to the owner and I said, how much are they paying for this hall? And he said, $75. And I'm thinking, they're complaining about $75. Like, how can you, like, that's unheard of. You can't get a hall for $75, but they were still complaining. Right.
Right.
And so I decided, to take your advice there, Richard, and Chris Wimmers, if you're out there, thank you. Chris said to me, he goes, Doug, just double your rates. And I went, whoa, I can't do that. That's crazy. It's doubling my rates. So I went up a little bit, and people still kept giving me rave reviews and a little bit more rave reviews. And then I finally got to double my rates over that period of time. And I still had more work coming in than I needed to even, I could even handle. So I just one day said, you know what, I'm going to double my rates again. And they kept coming. And then I'm like, I went up 50% more and 50% more. So I started at $200, Richard. And the reason I'm telling people this is not that I'm so great, folks. It's just that I'm so stupid. And if I had to listen to what we're talking about earlier, I probably would have been able to buy an additional home for my kids, right? So it's at the height of this, we were getting a minimum of $2,200 to $3,000 per job. Yeah. Doing the exact same thing
Yep.
But instead of the Marconi Club, I'm now doing Fisher Scientific's party or McDonald's holiday party on the 52nd floor of a beautiful building where they're sticking me up in a hotel that's $500 a night on top of this, right? And so that's what we're talking about. It's the shift in the quality of your life, but it is way more profitable to do that $3,000 job than that $200 job, because your cost of delivery, your cost of, your customer acquisition cost, it all is so much better.
Yep.
On your bottom line of profit. So you got to pay attention to the profit and what you're doing in your business. And by the way, you work less.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a winner all the way around.
Yeah.
But then now there's people, you talked about mindset, Doug, and it's really important that you gotta grasp onto that. You gotta know who you want to serve, like you did. You figured it out step by step. I did the same thing.
Right.
I started out, my first water features were cost. I mean, I paid for the materials. And I still have them. I look at them from 1990, and I look at those water features I built for like $500.
Yeah.
I'd be getting like 10 grand for that today.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're still like, man, that's really good. I'm good. It's still there and stuff. So I built over 1,000 of those things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But just getting to that level you're operating in. And here's another thing that's going to open up more opportunity for you. Okay. Not just for another gig. You'd be amazing from a networking standpoint. As you said, because people just like me. I built beautiful things. We took care of everything. Everything was perfect, man. They worried about nothing, right? We handled everything no matter what happened. There wasn't another charge for anything.
Right.
No, it was just, it's my first price, my best price. This is it. We do it. It's done. Unless you come out and tell me to make it bigger or whatever, like it's going to be that. And we delivered on that every single time,
Yeah. Because if you think about the, somebody like, let's take a well-known figure of somebody, I don't know, Bill Gates. If Bill Gates refers you to one of his friends, you're typically already in the door. And, now if Skip, the local guy or wherever, refers one of his friends, you're already in there. But if you paid Skip, $5,000, if Skip paid you $5,000, but Bill Gates paid you $500,000, you're getting referred to another potential client like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, so if you look at your acquisition cost alone, it's zero, but your upside is $500,000 more than, and so it is a mind shift in the process. And a lot of people struggle with that mind shift because of we could do a whole episode on this, right. Because of their childhood upbringing where they were conditioned in a certain way. And we've got to eventually challenge that process. Yep. If you're running into that challenge to get yourself into thinking more profit.
Yeah. They call it poverty consciousness.
Great way.
Which means you're always thinking lack all the time. There's nothing, not enough. And yeah, that takes a lot of overcoming. You add that with the proverbial imposter syndrome, as good as I am or whatever, like I'm not good enough. Someone's going to figure out I'm not as good as so-and-so or whatever. And you got to get past that kind of stuff too. In sales, you're more the expert than I am, but I always found as I'd have the built sales systems and, the whole process, the whole presentation, I'd build it for them because the guys, their own heads are getting in the way.
Yeah.
So what I found by building a duplicatable sales system, like you follow this, you're going to be okay. Okay. And I learned new closes, right? And easier ways to ask and stuff like that. Plug it in so guys could duplicate, right? So they're out doing that because their own head wrecks their ability to sell and close, right? I mean, it really is asking for the sale alone. It'll stop them.
There are so many people who don't ever ask for the sale.
Yep.
They go through all the work and it's like, they're right there. And it's like, all they have to do is ask this one question. Do you think this is good for you? Yes.
Yep.
May we write the order? Yes. Right. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to be perfect about it. If you've done everything else, would you like to do this now? Yes. Right.
I learned this great. is like 4 words, right? And I'm like, it's the greatest. So just like that, would you like to do? But I learned this from I forget the guy's name right now, but would it make sense? So I'm selling roofing, right?
Yeah.
Well, would it make sense to pick a color and choose an install date and be quiet? And they'll say, yeah, it does. Or they'll say no. And I'll say, well, what would make sense? Because what are they going to tell me? Their objection.
Yeah.
And I get to answer that, right? So it's like, would it make sense? It's like, and where's the pressure? There is none for the closer or the client. Would it make sense? It's the simple, most conversational thing. Like, if it doesn't, well, what makes sense? Well, I'd like to get this and this. Okay, well, I can do that. Let's talk about that. Okay, and we'll walk through it. Now, would it make sense? Yeah, actually, it would. One little thing. People be hung up on the dumbest things. It's not.
Oh yeah. It's
just, yeah, it's simple stuff like that. But once you do that, again, you have a duplicatable system that you can learn. Because I'd build them, I'd video the presentation, I'd transcribe it so they could read it, they could watch it over and over. I go, that's the beauty of technology now. Like, you can train, you can watch this over and over. You're not going on a week-long ride-alongs. Okay, the biggest waste of time there is. You know, I'm like, I'm going to get you. I'd have guys, Doug, in 7 days. The only thing they knew about a roof was it was on top of a house. That's the extent of their roofing knowledge.
Yeah.
7 days they could go sell, and the people think they've been doing it for years.
Yeah. Basic product knowledge and understanding of a system will get you a long way. When I first started out, and even today, I've made, I'd say something. I'm like, oh, I should have probably said this, but it doesn't matter because the rapport is built and they go, yeah, that's great. I remember one time I said, well, what do you think? Right. And,
oh yeah. Always a good question to ask.
Yeah. What do you think? Right. I'm like, and the moment I said it, I was like, oh, no, you don't ask that question. Right. But the person literally said to me, well, I think we should move forward. What do you think, Doug? And I said, yes. Right? It's like,
there's an ICP. There's an ideal client profile. The one who says yes, no matter what dumb thing I do. Those are my kind of clients.
That should be built into our ICPs. Who says
right.
quit? Who says yes quickest? Right.
Right.
And with less hassle. Well, Richard, I could talk to you all day long, and I know we could go on for hours. And I want to give people a chance to reach out to you if they want to. And so, how do they get a hold of you? And what's the recommended system and path for that?
So, website, go to Grit to Lead, GRIT to lead, grittolead.com. Really simple. Keep it short. You can go there and reach out in there and see what I'm doing. Connect with me. But let's do something even better because this was an awesome interview. Let's give them a free gift.
Okay.
I want to give them the audio version of Escape the Owner Prison. Okay, the book we were talking about, and Automate, Delegate, Eliminate, all that great stuff. You guys have got it. Look into your show notes. You guys will have the link in there. They get a free link. Not going to cost you a dime. You click on it and listen. Okay. There's one caveat though. You have to listen to me read it. Okay. For 2.5 hours. So, but it's a great book. It's a good book. You'll enjoy.
Well, thank you for making it only 2.5 hours, because sometimes when you go to like audible.com or whatever, and you look at the book and it's like, 11 hours of reading the book. So it's like, gosh. Yeah. So
I'm a brevity guy. Okay. I pack a lot in a little.
Well, that's the wonderful way of doing things. I appreciate that. And so we'll put that link in the show notes for you, or do you want to give it verbally? Is it?
No, you can have it. I already gave it to your team.
Okay.
They're going to have the links and everything else because I don't even remember what it is.
That's funny. Well, Richard, thank you so much for being here. Grit to Lead is GRITTOLEAD.
Exactly.
.com. Okay. Richard, once again, thanks for being part of the CEO Sales Strategies podcast, bringing your A game. And I really appreciate all of the acumen and the advice that you've given to people. I know some people are thinking, damn. And I know some people are thinking, thank you. And so thanks again for being here, Richard.
I loved it. Loved the whole time. Thanks, Doug.
Automate, delegate, eliminate, right? Those are the 3 terms. Now, here's the thing about growing profits. The more you can improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of what you're doing, the more you will have higher profit. If you want to have happier lifestyles, automate as much as you can. delegate what you can, and eliminate what you can. And I love what he said, eliminate the wrong customers, because those wrong customers actually suck up your effectiveness and your efficiencies. And they turn the dial the wrong way. You end up spending so much time and energy into that, and your ROI on that, return on investment, is a lot lower than you want it to be most times. And frankly, it beats up on your psyche throughout the day as well. So if you love this episode, please give it a 5-star review. If you would like to get Richard's free gift offer, please reach out to the link in the show notes. And also, you can find him at the URL that we talked about, which is grit2lead.com. You'd like to reach out to me directly to have a conversation, reach out by email, please, at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. And let me know who you are, what you're doing, and let's see if we can help you get to the next levels of your goal, resolve that problem, gain that opportunity. All right. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown, who always says, go out and sell something. Sell a lot of it. Don't discount. You don't have to discount if your value perception is their value perception. It's amazing how many people discount down when they don't need to. And when you're playing win, 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 they win, you win, someone else in the process wins, you're usually going to find your value perception is very high based on what they're looking for, if you're listening to what they want and what they tell you they want. All right. So until next time, go be amazing like you are, and to your success. This is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thank you for being here.